At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Lucie, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you so very much for having me, Doug. I am excited and grateful to be here with you.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. You know, it was interesting what we've gone through to try to get this put together. And, being here in Thailand, sometimes it's a little difficult to get those communications over to the U.S., but I'm glad we finally put this together. So what I'd love for you to do is share with the audience your story and just kind of explain. I find it so interesting to hear people's stories of how they got to the point where we are at now and where they are at now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say that I was a little girl with a big dream. I grew up just outside of Detroit in the suburbs of Detroit. And ever since I can remember, I have been absolutely obsessed with horses. I mean, from before I can remember, I would beg my dad every single day, Dad, please, please buy me a horse. Well, it just so happened that my parents were blue collar workers. My mom had 2 factory jobs, and my dad every single day would remind me, I love you, sweetheart, but unfortunately, our family does not have the means to buy and maintain horses. That was just totally out of the realm of possibilities. But I never gave up on my dream. In fact, I was so horse crazy back then. I would pray at night and I would say, Dear God, please let me just dream that I'm riding a horse in my dreams so that way it actually feels like I'm doing it in real life. And I can't tell you how many times, Doug, I would be dreaming. My left foot would go in the stirrup. I'm swinging my right leg over, about to sit in the saddle, and poof, I'd wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so close. Because the only thing I wanted to do was get on the horse and just go galloping through the fields. And sure enough, it wasn't long before I realized that I had to take matters into my own hands. And so the day that I turned 16 was the same day that I got my driver's license and the same day that I put my Craigslist ad online. And I created this Craigslist ad and said, I will ride your horse for free. And what I learned from a very young age is that if you can find out, like, pursue your passion and find out what your skill set is, where your talents lie, and exploit them in the service of others, you are going to find true fulfillment, unprecedented success, and ultimate abundance on the other side of service. And so that's what I did. I put that ad on Craigslist. Next thing you know, I'm getting these phone calls from these yahoos with these unbroke horses, these wild horses that haven't been touched, handled, ridden in 5 or 10 years. And I'm this like confident, cocky 16-year-old girl with a brand new driver's license driving out all over God's country. Just the happiest thing to ride these horses. And it wasn't long before, next thing you know, I'm getting bucked off, thrown off, flipped over on top of. I mean, you name it, I experienced it. But it was 100% one of those failing forward opportunities where it's just like you live and you learn and you just stay laser focused on your goal. It's that relentless drive to never give up on your passion. And that's exactly what it came down to. It's just like life is going to throw you curveballs. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be obstacles along the way, but it's all about never giving up and always getting back on the horse, essentially. And that's what I like to teach people is that I am where I am today, not because I was lucky. It's because I've failed so many times and I've fallen off so many times that I'm the rider I am today because I've failed so many times. If you ask any business owner, entrepreneur that's 6, 7, 8 figure earner, they're going to tell you they didn't get lucky. They failed so many times and they took a leap of faith and they followed their passion and they didn't give up. And that's the recipe for success. And so essentially, just to kind of finish the story, I ended up meeting a horse dealer who would get in like 50 horses a week. And I had to ride and sell everything like fast, quick, cheap, because if I didn't sell it fast enough, it was getting shipped to Canada, to the slaughterhouses. So here I am, 16-year-old girl on a mission to save all the horses of the world. And that essentially was my first step into the world of entrepreneurship because it was like the sky is the limit. How many horses do you want to ride today? Do you want to ride 5, 10, 20 horses? And And essentially, I did that all throughout high school, all throughout college, graduated college, got scooped up into the corporate world. And while I was working inside of the cube, I still was selling horses on the side. I was in corporate world for about 3 years. And during that time, I was like the Excel spreadsheet master. And I would do these long spreadsheets where hours and hours of just thousands of lines. But the whole time that I was doing these Excel spreadsheets, I had my ear pods in and I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer. And so it was his beautiful messages that really shaped like fundamentally like who I am and my belief system at such a young age, because those hours that I spent in the cube doing the Excel spreadsheets, I was taking notes. And while I was taking notes, I ended up, one of his messages is the second rule to success and fulfillment is don't die with your music still inside of you. And at the time, working in the corporate job, I had like the most miserable, negative, pessimistic boss you could ever imagine. And so I knew that I was meant for more and that I couldn't stay at this corporate job. And that was probably one of the scariest, just most terrifying decisions I've ever had to make is leaving that cozy, comfy corporate job with full benefits, paid vacation, salary, the works, and taking a leap of faith and following my passion. And I can confidently say that one of the scariest decisions I've ever made, but one of the most rewarding and incredibly gratifying decisions. There has not been one day that has passed that I have regretted my decision to leave the corporate world. And I basically went on to build and scale a 7-figure business where I now buy, treat, and sell horses all over the country. And I accidentally opened up one of Michigan's largest public trail riding companies, just because I like trail riding. It's like one of my favorite things. And I wanted to just like share the gift and the joy of trail riding with friends and family. And again, word of mouth spread like wildfire. And everything that's happened, everything that's unfolded has unfolded very naturally and organically. And I don't say that to say like, oh, hey, look at me. One of my fundamental beliefs is to live, lead, and inspire by example. So what I've learned is that if I can do it, I want to inspire others that if I can do it, everybody else can do it too. And I feel like I've been very blessed to learn about quantum physics and how to leverage the laws of the universe to very intentionally craft the life of your dreams. And so now I'm just on a mission to positively impact and inspire millions of people around the world so that way they can stop procrastinating, stop settling, and start living the life that they were meant to live.
So where did you actually start to learn about quantum physics, about meditation, about all of those type of things? What was the background of that?
Yeah. So when I was in the cube listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, I feel like he makes so many he really puts things in like a very beautiful spiritual light where he talks about once you change the way you look at things, the things you start to look at change, shifting your perspective and understanding things like um, we if you take an orange and you squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice or apple juice or milk? Obviously, orange juice is going to come out of the orange because that's what's inside of the orange. And so same thing with us. When the pressure when life happens and the pressure's on, what comes out of us? Is it anger? Is it fear? Or is it grace and is it love and it's compassion? So really he kind of laid the fundamental, like the fundamental principles down. And then through him, I stumbled upon the teachings of Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks, I started implementing her teachings into my life. And I really started to see the power of intention setting and how it was just like I would write out, I love talking about intention setting because it's almost like placing your order in with the universe and just being intentional with your focus. So many people, I like to talk about patterns and how people have all of these unconscious patterns that are running their life, patterns of focus, patterns of thought, patterns of language, and patterns of physiology. And when we're living unconsciously, unaware of these programs, we don't realize that we're not setting ourselves up for success. And so That's why the power of awareness and meditation is so important, because the definition of meditation is to become aware of oneself. And so when we start meditating, we start unlocking this idea of awareness, because if we want to change anything in our life, all change is preceded by awareness. We can't change what we're unaware of. So when I start working with my clients and we start talking about, okay, where are you now and where do you want to be? What are your goals? Let's do a vision extraction process. Then it really comes down to understanding what are the unconscious patterns that are running their life, because once you shine the light of awareness on those patterns, they no longer have control of your life, and that's when you're able to make real lasting change. So Abraham Hicks was a huge teacher in my life about quantum physics. Attending her first workshop when I was 22 years old was when I kickstarted my meditation journey, which essentially up-leveled every area of my life in like beautiful, incredible, unexpected ways. And then just continuing to dive deeper into this and finding people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Jay Shetty, like all of those people, reading their books and learning their wisdom. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm excited to share that knowledge and wisdom with the world.
Well, let's talk about quantum physics, because you mentioned that and you mentioned meditation. And, there's so many ways that people can meditate. What I have found is that, it's just, you can almost become overcome by all the different ways to meditate. And yet, you hear this concept of quantum physics, you hear this concept of the law of attraction, you talk about intention, which I think is a little bit different, and yet I think it's a part of it. But what is quantum physics? What have you learned quantum physics to be, and how does that relate to our lives, and how does it relate to meditation, and how can we use meditation in a way that we can literally change the outcome of our lives and our experiences on a regular basis?
Oh my God, these are all my favorite questions. These are like, I love talking about everything you just asked me. So I'm so excited for today. So quantum physics simply postulates that we live in a vibrational universe where all things move and all things vibrate. So the number one law of the universe is the law of vibration. All things move and all things vibrate. And if you think about it, if you ask any scientist, what is everything made of? Everything's made of matter. What's matter made of? It's made of atoms. Well, what does an atom look like when we break it down? Well, it's got the proton, it's got the electron zipping around there, and depending on the speed or the frequency that the electron is rotating around the atom is going to determine if it's a solid, if it's a liquid, or if it's a gas. So if we know that everything is made up of atoms, if it's made up of energy, then we can say that we are energetic beings and we are constantly interpreting vibration. So what I mean by that is, like, if we think about our sounds, how are we interpreting noise? Our ears are interpreting the vibration of the air, and that's how we are receiving sound and interpreting it as whatever it's song or music or a voice or whatever it is. Same things with our eyes. When we're looking at light, our eyes are interpreting the wavelength of the light, and we have like obviously the light spectrum that our eyes are capable of seeing. And then depending on the wavelength or the frequency of that light, we are interpreting the vibration of that light wave. And same thing with touch, smell, and taste. They're all vibrational. So we are energetic, empathic, vibrational interpreters, and everything carries an energy to it. That is the fundamental basis of this idea of quantum physics. And what's so exciting about this is that we soon come to realize that a thought carries an energy or frequency to it. And so then we start to realize our thoughts and our words are extraordinarily powerful tools that we've never been taught how to properly use or properly implement. And so then we start talking about what is the law of attraction and how does it work? Because if we live in this vibrational universe where like attracts like, and that we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And that's where some people sometimes stumble with this law of attraction thing, because they think, oh, this sounds kind of woo-woo, kind of out there. You're telling me that all I have to do is write down on a list of on a piece of paper all the things that I want, and they're magically going to manifest before my eyes. And I'm like, well, not quite. It doesn't quite work like that, but kind of. And so what we talk about is you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And so that's why it's so important to do the work and very intentionally raise your vibration, because if you want more love, you have to be more loving. If you want more money, you have to embody the energy of abundance, and you have to become more generous. Um, it's everything's in circulation. And just like if you want more things to be grateful for, well, you have to pour out gratitude. When you pour out gratitude, God listens, the universe hears you, and it's just going to bless you with more things to be grateful for. Just like if we continue, like, and if we're operating unconsciously and we're constantly focused on what we don't want, well, where our focus goes, our energy flows, and what we talk about and what we think about is what we bring about. So therefore, we have to retrain our minds and break these habits of always focusing on what we don't want, because we're unintentionally creating a life that doesn't serve us. Just like Abraham Hicks says, we're either default creators or we're deliberate creators. And 98% of the population are default creators, where they are moving throughout the day and allowing their external circumstances, whatever it is that they're observing, that they have absolutely no control over, allowing those things to dictate how they feel inwardly. And instead of living from the outside in, quantum physics is so exciting because it teaches us that we can live from the inside out. So just like Joe Dispenza explains, there is the Newtonian concept of the world. And in the Newtonian concept of the world, there's cause and effect, which essentially means an event takes place, and then that triggers an emotional response after having experienced that event. Well, the quantum model of the world is so exciting because it's flipping that around, and it's all about causing an effect. Therefore, and if we know that an event is what is going to influence or create an emotion, if we're able to live from the inside out and embody the energy and emotion of the desire already fulfilled of the event before it takes place, then we're literally able to manipulate reality and attract different people, places, things, experiences to us by simply embodying the energy of already having the desire or the wish fulfilled.
Okay.
And so that's why
I'm going to stop you there for a minute. Because you're talking about so many things, and it's so fascinating. I want to actually delve into some of those things a little bit more separately, because, you talk about how we literally experience. We're kind of at the effect. I kind of like to use either we're in control, we're at cause, or we're at the effect of our environment. And one of the things that just hit my mind where you were talking about the quantum physics is it's kind of like a magnet. We tend to attract that which we are. So if we're say a negative side of that magnet, we're going to attract the opposite of that. But basically, I think it's a little bit different. Like you say, if we're constantly attracting negative in our lives, and I think that all of us have experienced that to some degree, that means that somewhere in our lives, within our being, we are experiencing negative emotions, negative things going on. And oftentimes, isn't that really a subconscious situation where we're not even aware? So, people say, why is this happening to me? What's going on here? And so forth. And they're not even aware that they're the one that's causing it.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's why I really like to talk about radical responsibility, because once you really understand the law of attraction, it's pretty much just like gravity. Whether you want to acknowledge its existence or not, I know that if I pick up my phone and I drop it, I guarantee it's going to work. Whether I want to agree that it exists or not, or argue with somebody of its existence, it's up to me. but these laws are in operation at all times. And so when we talk about law of attraction and this idea of radical responsibility, it's really understanding that we are the powerful, magnificent creators of our own reality, and that we can absolutely be, do, have anything that we can dream of. If the mind can conceive and believe it, it absolutely can achieve it. Everything starts with a thought. And if you think about it, like if you think about this microphone, what was this microphone before it was a microphone? It was an idea in somebody's head. Every single thing of this computer or phone, the light, everything was just an idea. So thoughts absolutely become things. It's just about really conditioning your mind to think the thoughts that serve you and that are going to really bring you happiness and joy and excitement and higher vibrational emotions. Now, this idea of radical responsibility, we have to become aware of the thoughts that we're thinking, the words that we're speaking, and the emotions that we're feeling. And then we can take responsibility, because when we take responsibility, we're taking back control of our life. And it's not only the thoughts that we're thinking, the words that we're speaking, and the emotions that we're experiencing, but it's also how we're responding to any situation or circumstance life has to throw at us, because life is 10% about what happens and 90% of how we respond. And the outcome of it really depends on our energetic response to the circumstance that happened. Because if we choose to respond in anger, fear, animosity, that's going to greatly affect the outcome, as opposed to if we were to respond with compassion, kindness, and grace. The last thing is being responsible of our interpretations, or how we're choosing to perceive things. Because I just recently stumbled upon Bashar's teachings, and one thing that he really drives home is life has no meaning. We are the ones who give meaning to life. And so whatever meaning we choose to assign to life is essentially going to shift our perspective and our attitude and our energy around whatever thing might have happened to us.
Well, and it's interesting, because as you think about that, I like to use the word perception. As we perceive our life, it really is based on those emotions, the environment, the subconscious that is sitting there. And, I talk a lot, and I love to ask these questions. There's so many people that are not experiencing life the way that they really want to, and yet they're not aware. And the question is, how do they become aware that their life does not have to be that way, and that they actually can take control of that? And you've mentioned a couple of things, but I think it's important for people to understand that if you're not experiencing life in a good way, or as you talk about the emotions, and particularly, with your studies with Abraham Hicks, where you've got that whole emotional scale there. And if you find that you're angry, or that you're a victim, which means that you're blaming someone else for your situation and your challenges, all of a sudden you can recognize that, that is not a positive me. That's a negative me. I'm below that line of positivity. And there are some key signs that someone could say, okay, I'm now becoming aware that the reality is that I'm not experiencing what I want to experience, but I am experiencing what I choose to experience, because I'm not doing anything about it. Because inactivity is the same as activity. It's just in a negative way. So here's the question. How does meditation, based on your experience, how does it help you to really begin to understand what those subconscious elements are that are affecting you? And how does meditation help you to literally move those to the side, and you help to create an entirely different viewpoint of the world, a viewpoint of yourself, which, as you say, then you start to attract an entirely different set of circumstances in your life?
Yeah. So, if there's one thing that I would recommend everybody start implementing in their life immediately, that I can guarantee is going to garner incredible results, it's meditation. And the reason why is because the definition of meditation means to become aware of oneself. And so a lot of times it's like people want to, whatever the goal is, whether it's improved finances, better relationships, awesome health, whatever the goal is, they feel that they will feel more happy and more fulfilled in the attainment of that goal. Well, what if I could give you a shortcut and you could start feeling happy right here, right now? And then in your happiness, because you're feeling happy and fulfilled and successful, you're going to draw those things to you at a much faster rate. And so this idea of meditation is so beautiful, because if we understand that humans on average have between 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, we know that 90% of those are usually negative. So meditation is beautiful because it allows us to quiet our mind. And so many of us are running around with monkey mind, which is totally normal because life is busy and it's chaotic and it's full and there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot going on. And if you're anything like me, I like to say yes to a lot of things and pile my plate super high. So meditation allows you to quiet your mind. And when you quiet your mind, not only do you quiet that little voice that's like usually, like at least for me, constantly tearing me down or constantly telling me I'm not good enough or constantly questioning like, oh, well, what are those people going to think? Or why do you think that you're good enough to do that? Whatever the case may be. But your meditation allows you to quiet your mind. And when you quiet your mind, you let go of all of your worries, all of your fears, all of your limiting beliefs, anything that's weighing you down. And when you do that, your vibration instantly begins to rise. And when your vibration begins to arise, you begin to step into these higher vibrational emotions of just freedom, of peace, of serenity, where you don't have any sort of worries or fears. And then what happens is you get to focus on your breath. When you're focusing on your breath, all of a sudden, whether a thought is going to come in. It's funny because a lot of people will be like, well, Lucy, I tried meditation and I just can't quiet my mind because a thought will always creep its way in. And I'm like, that's perfect. That means you're doing it right. It's all about the practice of meditation because it allows us to become aware of the thoughts that we're thinking. And so many of us are operating unconsciously that we're not aware of the thoughts that we're thinking. So all of a sudden a thought creeps in and you're like, oh, there's a thought, lovingly release it. And then focus back on your breath. Then whether it's 5, 10, 30 seconds later, guess what? Another thought is going to come in your mind. And instead of allowing yourself to fall down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I got to pick up the kids and then I got to go call to make that doctor's appointment and then we got to make dinner and blah, 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 blah. Instead of falling, or even if you've already fallen down that rabbit hole of thought, that's okay. Just acknowledging that you're there and acknowledging that like, oh, I'm thinking thoughts again, and then lovingly releasing them. In that practice, you become familiar with the thoughts, you become aware of your thoughts. And then it becomes obvious that you are not your thoughts and you become the observer of your thoughts. And once you become the observer of your thoughts, you get to decide what thoughts you're choosing to think. And then you begin to understand this idea that a belief is nothing more than a thought that we keep thinking. And so many of us have these limiting beliefs that don't serve us, that were built into us, hardwired into us from our past, from our parents, from any sort of traumas that we might have lived through or experienced, that whether we think that money is hard to make or that bad things happen to good people, whatever they could be. And then all of a sudden we start to question those thoughts and we start to challenge those belief systems. And that's where the growth happens. Because if we know that our thoughts create our reality, and we know that 90% of the thoughts that we think today are the exact same thoughts that we're going to think tomorrow and the next day and the next day, well, therefore, how much of a different life are we actually creating if we just continue to be stuck in the same patterns of thought? Therefore, that's why meditation is such a beautiful practice, because it allows us to become familiar with the thoughts that we're thinking and essentially the emotions that we're experiencing, so that way we can stop operating unconsciously and take back control of our lives.
Well, and, as you talk about that, and essentially, because here we are talking about meditation, but you've meditated for a long time, I'm sure, and I've meditated, at least for a year now, almost on a daily basis. And yet I know there's a lot of people in the audience that go, really? How do I even learn how to meditate? And the challenge is you've talked about some amazing leaders in meditation, but for a lot of people, it's probably outside of their ability to pay to go to one of those retreats or to do those type of things. how do you encourage people? How do you send them to an area where they can learn how to meditate in a way that, as you say, they can focus on their breath, they can start to observe, the feelings and the thoughts that come. How does someone learn how to meditate on a very simple basis?
Oh, well, I have the perfect answer.
That's why I asked you.
Where do I start? First of all, I'd like to say that there's, just like you said, just repeating what you said, that there are so many different ways to meditate. There's guided meditations, there's abundance meditations, there's breathwork meditations, there's mantra meditations, there's music meditations, there's silence meditation. Like, there's so many. And so what I encourage all of my students to do is I have a toolbox of different strategies and techniques, and obviously meditation is one of them. But I like to set people up for success. So that way we can collapse timelines and really make extraordinary success towards people's goals. So I have like a whole arsenal of different meditations in my phone that I like to send to my students or friends or family, whoever. Like, I have a different meditation for everything. Like, if I know that I have a horse, if I have a horse showing that day, I might do a couple different like abundance meditations, being like, oh, I attract prosperity. I resonate with the vibration of abundance. I am opulence, wealth, and prosperity, whatever it is. So, but the other thing too is it can be intimidating, it can be uncomfortable, and that's part of the thing, is like we're all so used to, our brains are not wired to keep us happy and keep us fulfilled. Our brains are wired to keep us safe and keep us alive. And anything outside of that comfort zone is uncomfortable and it's scary, and we don't like to do it because we're creatures of habit. And so therefore, that's why we have to break these unconscious habits, and we have to replace them with better, more fulfilling habits that are going to take us to the next level in life and business. Meditation being one of them. So one of the services that I do is we have a Facebook group, and it's called Transformation Nation. And every single morning, as soon as my eyes open, the first thing I do is meditate. I've been doing this for 10 years now, where I have this and like I said, I'll do different meditation practices, and I like to recommend people I kind of to think of it as like a buffet. You have to try all of these different meditations and find out what resonates best with you, because some meditations might feel better or more exciting, or you might feel floaty, or whatever the case may be. But it's like, you got to try them all and find out like what's your favorite flavor, and then just roll with that and see how it makes you feel during the meditation, after the meditation, and then at the end of the day, like how did the events unfold in your day? Like, how magnificent was your day? And so we have this Facebook group. It's called Transformation Nation. And every Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, I go live and I do a gratitude meditation. And I invite everybody to join. I am on a mission to positively impact and inspire millions of people around the world. And like I said, meditation is one of those things that I just believe so strongly in. And I know that I meditate every single day. So the least that I can do is help people along their way. So I invite people to join us in our Transformation Nation group every Friday at 10:30 Eastern, whether it's a seasoned meditator that they just want to embrace more of that high vibrational, good feeling energy. Or if it's somebody that's never meditated before, that's just learning and wants to kickstart their journey, they've heard people talk about it. They've heard about how like the most brilliant business minds and billionaires all meditate. And they're like, wow, I'd like to start that, but I don't know how, or I don't know where. I love inviting people to our Friday morning meditations.
All right. So, you talk about different ones, and obviously, as you're talking about, guided meditations, because that's what you're really talking about. If you're talking about an abundance meditation, and if you're leading that, you are saying words that are, you're hoping, going to help someone to start to create abundance in their life. Now, being here in Thailand right now, what I hear a lot is this silent meditation where you have no words coming in. Sometimes you use music, sometimes you don't. You're focusing on your breath, and you just become to the point where you're not aware of anything other than your breath, and you're kind of moving away from all that external stuff. What is the difference between that type of meditation, which I'm sure you've experienced, versus the guided meditation where either someone is suggesting to you what to think, and as far as affirmations, or whether you do it yourself and you start to literally use affirmations as you are meditating, that as though, as you said, with the quantum field, as though they already exist?
Yeah. So I think that guided meditations are more user friendly, and especially people that aren't experienced meditators, it can really be very, I don't know if the word is intimidating or difficult, or what it may be, but I feel like there's a certain ease when it comes to a guided meditation where you don't have to worry about if you're doing it right. Because sometimes people don't know like what they're actually supposed to be doing, or how they're supposed to be feeling, what they're supposed to be thinking, what they're supposed to be getting out of this, or how they're supposed to be feeling. So with the guided meditations, I feel like those are really, they're great for any level of meditator, but especially people who are just getting started, because people can just relax and tune in, and it's easier to tune in to the positive words of affirmation, the positive words in that guided meditation, as opposed to what can be a little bit more, if we want to say, difficult potentially, as opposed to just sitting in silence. I will say that some of the most powerful meditations I have had have been in silence. And that's why I just encourage everybody to try a little bit of everything, and then they can find out what's their best flavor and figure out what they like the best. And like I said, like there's no right or wrong, and I'll do multiple meditations each morning or sometimes throughout the day, and just whatever feels right. Especially if I'm having a bad day. I don't really have bad days. I have like bad moments, because I'm pretty good about like recognizing when I'm operating out of alignment. If I'm like feeling like stress or anxiety or overwhelm or anger or fear, anything, like if I'm not feeling like my normal high vibrational, happy, energetic, positive self, like I can immediately notice that. And then I'm like, okay, like I don't like feeling like this. So therefore I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to take a step back. Give me 10 minutes. I'm going to meditate for a minute, and I'm going to come back out a different person. And that's absolutely how it happens every single time.
So if I'm understanding you, and I happen to agree with what you're saying based on my experiences, really the way to get started is those guided meditations. And for the audience, the reality is that they can find guided meditations on YouTube. At no expense to themselves. And what I have found is, it's interesting, as I listen to different guided meditations, there are some that just absolutely irritate me beyond belief. And then there are others that, okay, I'm starting to really feel that energy. And so I think it's important for people to understand that you try different types of guided meditation from different individuals, to where all of a sudden something is resonating with you, something is connecting with you, and that's where you start. But I love what you said. It's kind of like grade school. Guided meditation is the grade school, or maybe, first year, call it whatever you want to look at it. And then as you continue doing that, all of a sudden you start to say, well, I'm going to just try to do a quiet meditation, or maybe just listen to music, but I'm going to not do the guided, I'm going to start guiding myself. And then, as you say, you get to the point where you just do the quiet meditation, and, that gets to be fascinating too. So it's a level of moving upward and upward and upward in experience, and it takes a time before you move to the next level.
Yeah. And it's all about just like enjoying each step of the journey and just trying it all out. And I love what you said because it's so true. There's some people that I listen to on YouTube that I absolutely love and adore. And like as soon as they turn on, like I instantly drop into this like beautiful high vibrational meditative state. And then there's other people I'm like, nope, next. And so you'll find that the more that you try these guided meditations, you'll find who you resonate with the most.
Well, and I'm curious with your experience in meditation, you're familiar with the different types of music background that people use. So you've got the solfeggio, you've got the binaural, you've got the hemisync, you've got all of these different types of vibrations that allegedly, and I believe scientifically, it's been shown that they literally can affect the brain and affect the hormones and everything that's being developed that helps to create better health and better emotions and so on and so forth. Have you found that that makes a difference for you, or do you find that just listening to regular music or not listening to anything at all makes a difference?
I don't think I know that some of the ones that are like the 432, like they're different frequencies that will help with different energetic healing. And I guess I like all of it. So it really just says like I said, it just depends like what I'm in the mood for. And like I have like a whole list of different frequency meditations. But I just encourage everyone to just like try it out for themselves and see how they are feeling and how they're affected and what their experience is.
Well, and as you talk about frequency, and that's solfeggio, and there's 9 different frequencies that are involved in that. And as you say, some are there for healing, some of those are for love, some of those are for different types of emotions or whatever. But have you really studied this? And I haven't yet. I'm trying to understand it, how those type of frequencies that we listen to then become frequencies that we attract, and ultimately you start to see that healing take place or those other effects take place. Have you looked at that, as figured out how that happens?
I think like, yeah, I mean, I've watched all sorts of different studies and documentaries on it, and it's so fascinating that like they'll take sand or salt or whatever material, and then they'll put it on the surface and they'll start playing the music. And as the music plays, the salt, the grains of salt will immediately start forming like these beautiful different formations. And it's so cool because you get to like vividly see the shape of the frequency being played. And what is also very fascinating slash scary is that the government actually knows about, obviously the government knows about this information, and they change the frequency. So I I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like 432 is like the most perfect harmonic healing sound frequency. And when we listen to that music, it actually heals us from like each cell in our body is benefiting from the healing energy of that sound. And it was actually the Nazis in Germany discovered that if they tweaked that vibration and switched the frequency to, I think, maybe 450. I don't remember if they moved it up or down, but they very intentionally moved it. And so now all of the radio stations that we listen to today are no longer on that healing 432 vibration. They moved it to I don't know what you want to say. I don't know. That's like it kind of leans into like more of like the conspiracy side of things.
Yeah.
So like, that's a whole rabbit hole and a half.
But it really is interesting how those frequencies can literally affect us, and as we listen to those and we become, to some degree through meditation, attracting that frequency from the quantum field, all of a sudden it really starts to affect us in a positive way. So, and I hadn't thought about that conspiracy aspect to it by changing it a little bit, but I think you're probably right. So, this has been a great discussion as we're getting to the close. What I'd love for you to do is just take a moment, and what would be the message that you would like to share with the audience? So if they walked away from this podcast thinking just one or a couple of things, what would that message be from you to them?
I think it's so important to understand that energy is our highest form of frequency and that the power of our minds is absolutely extraordinary. So if you understand that we live in a vibrational world where all things move and all things vibrate, it's exciting and empowering to unlock your true potential, understanding that you can be, do, have anything that you dream up. You are the powerful, magnificent creator of your own reality, and belief is what bridges the gap between where you're at and where you want to be. All you simply have to do is begin to believe in yourself, my friend, and the possibilities are limitless.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. This has just been a great conversation. How do folks find you?
Yeah, so we have this 16-week program that helps people very intentionally rewire their subconscious mind and transform their identity. Because again, we are where we are based on every single decision that we've made up until this point. So if we want a new future, we've got to start making different decisions. And essentially, we have to become a totally different person. We have to leave our old identity or our current identity at the door, and we have to become like a moth to the flame of our desires. And therefore, we have to let go of all of our thoughts, everything that's been holding us back or keeping us stuck. If we feel like we're stuck, it's because we're stuck in a story, and it's time to rewrite that story right here, right now. So what we've done is we've taken this 16-week training and we've condensed it into a 2-hour, 6-part. It's like a 6-part series that like altogether is about 2 hours long. It sells for $1,000 on our website. However, we have a special promo code for you and all of your listeners. So if you follow us on ultimatesuccessblueprint.com and you use promo code INSPIRE, you will be able to access and download this training at absolutely no cost. So you'll be able to access all of these techniques and strategies with how to intentionally rewire your subconscious mind, transform your identity, and start taking massive action towards your dreams today. And that's ultimatesuccessblueprint.com.
And again, go real slow. What is the website?
ultimatesuccessblueprint.com.
Okay. All right.
And then
go ahead.
The promo code is INSPIRE because your podcast is Inspire Vision. So,
all right.
Anybody who's listening, feel free to check that out. And we also would love to invite you to our community on Transformation Nation. That's our Facebook community. And like I said, every single day we are pouring out content on how you can become the best version of yourself emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Not only for yourself, but for your family, for your loved ones, and your community at large. And like I said, if you're interested in learning how to meditate, I lead a pretty awesome Friday morning meditation that I'd love to have you guys at.
Oh, fantastic. Lucie, thanks so much for being on the show. I really have enjoyed this and appreciate your thoughts, your research, everything you've done and who you've become and how you're now helping other people to accomplish better things in their lives.
If you're blessed, be a blessing. And so that's what I'm here to do, is to serve and give back. So thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. And folks, thanks for listening. Hope you have a wonderful week and check all this stuff out. So this is Dr. Doug saying namaste.